Hi everybody, this is CJT Amateur Hour, where production values go to die. It's our weekly podcast for writers who love to write. We like to teach writers how to write. We want to write. We're writing, right?
Right.
It's June 9th, Sunday, June 9th. Well, we do this every Sunday. We use it as an excuse to drink coffee. Hold on a second, we'll be right back.
Lots of coffee.
Oh, coffee. Man, Jack in the Box coffee is so underrated. Okay, I feel better. Do you feel better?
I do feel better.
Feel better?
Yep.
Okay. So we are here in our little abode, and for those of you that are here for the first time, what it is CC and I, we do a weekly podcast to talk about writing and life and us, because the world just rotates around us.
In our own minds, at least.
Anyway, in all minds. We're retired. We're longtime public servants. And what we're doing is we're trying to build up a little writership here, a little writing
Publishing company.
Mm-hmm. And we're doing books, but we're also trying to share our knowledge as much as we can.
What we've learned.
Yeah.
What not to do. Basically anything that we've done.
She says that as a joke, but our sales are pathetic, so
we'll get there.
We'll get there someday. We're doing this as the 20-year overnight success plan.
Well, for me, it's been probably closer to 40 years because I've been doing this off and on for a while. But yeah.
So
I can be an overnight success anytime now.
Yeah. So really, we only have to hit one home run, and then things will just take off. And we're going to keep doing this until people learn, or until people tell us to go away.
No. Or we decide we're bored and try something outrageous and different, but I don't see that happening.
I don't see that happening.
No.
So we start each podcast with current projects, so folks know what's coming up, and we actually have 3 active books going on right now.
You do, yes.
Three.
Yes, we have 1 active book together.
Yes.
And you have 2 that you've been working on for quite some time.
Yep. So the Space Epic, which is at the editors again. It's going through another round of editing.
So that's round 2.
Round 2. So it's going through editing.
And you also had the beta read.
Yeah, the beta read. I've got and then they got the Zoe book, which is at the betas, and then there's the book that you and I are working on together.
Yes.
And we're still at the first draft, second draft, first draft stage.
Right. Well, we have, I don't know if you'd call it a completed first draft, but this one is a bit of an experiment for us because we have written a book jointly, but that was fiction. We're working on a nonfiction book this time about our big ass trip around the country.
Yep. And
we're trying to determine the best format to present it in, all the little niggling details like how many pictures to include, what should we do with the page headers, all kinds of different things. So we're working on that, and that's going to be hopefully out in the fall.
Yeah, we're trying to push ourselves on that while our memories are fresh, and we're struggling right now with presentation. I guess mission statement.
Right.
We're struggling with mission statement. Right. Is this book for us? Is it for somebody else? Is it for travel advice, or is it just a story to tell? Is it
could be writing advice?
Writing advice. We're struggling with that. So is it symbolic of our lives? We're overthinking it.
Relationship advice.
Yeah, we're overthinking it.
That's our modus operandi.
Yeah,
we're always overthinking it.
We tend to overthink things. Okay.
Yes.
So and then there was yesterday, which was funny. Yesterday was funny. So we're struggling also with the book cover for the Space Epic, and it's the question always is how much money you want to throw at it.
Right.
Always the question is how much money you want to throw at it, and usually in the past I've done 99 designs, but money being what it is, it's not being as fluid as it used to be because we are on a fixed income now. We have to look for alternatives, and so we were looking through various sites where books are
pre-made covers,
mm-hmm. And you came across a cover which made me laugh.
Oh yeah, me too. Quite a few of them actually.
Yeah, actually, the titles are just really thrown on these pre-made covers, just to show, just to demo
Right.
what's going
If
on
you ever
there.
want to laugh, go to some of these pre-made book cover sites and just scroll through and read the titles because some of them are hilarious.
And the one that triggered you was
It was the Sexbot Rebellion or something
Sexbot
like
Rebellion
that.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
it was something about, yeah, it was a
It was
sci-fi,
a sci-fi
obviously.
because we were looking at
Yes.
sci-fi covers, and so it's like Sexbot Rebellion. And so I thought about this all day yesterday, and I wrote an outline. Obviously, can't use Sexbot or
No.
Rebellion because
No.
that's. But
there are apparently books out there. There is a subgenre of sci-fi, I guess, about sex bots. So, and how many times can we say sex bot in this podcast?
Yeah. So I actually outlined what I think is actually a really decent book. Not so much on the rights of robots, but the rights of man.
Oh,
And it's actually
it's like an iRobot type of thing, maybe.
yeah, an robot kind of thing. And even of course every robot story has to refer to Isaac Asimov.
Right.
And the eternal question about to what degree are robots going to hurt us, or because it's always that question.
Or do they become sentient beings in their own right, and what are their rights?
Yeah, what are their rights? And so it became more of a as I'm outlining this in my brain, it became more about the rights of humans than it became about the rights of robots. By holding up robots, you actually put a spotlight on human behavior, which is what you should do. And it started to come out pretty good. And then I remembered that I've got all these books that I have to write, and I go,
you're using that word again.
Yeah.
Have to.
Yeah, but still, it's like I've got all these books that are in the tube,
the
and
works.
it's like, do I want to do another? Oh God!
But that's always what happens, I think, with writers. Is if you're in the middle of a project and you get to that point where you get bogged down,
Right.
somewhere in the middle of the book, it's like, oh man, I'm so tired of this. I can't figure out this problem. And then you're in the shower usually, or asleep, falling asleep. And some little plot bunny just jumps into your head. It has nothing to do with what you're working on.
Oh yeah.
But everything to do with a brand new story. It's like, oh, let's go off and do this shiny new thing. And
Of course, what we should do as writers is whenever we do something like this, we write it down immediately. If we just leave it in our brain, it's going to be gone. So I'm writing all these ideas, and it's coming together, and it's like it's almost at the tipping point. It's almost there. It's almost there.
You have to sit down and write it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you don't write it, then it lives, and it's just.
And it's in the back of your mind.
It's just this close.
Right.
And if it just gets a little bit of a nudge, it's going to go over, and it's going to become 70,000 words and all.
Okay, but to be fair, JT had decided he was going to take a writing hiatus because the space epic is going to be a lot of editing here, probably at the end of the week. Zoe is off at the betas, so there's nothing to work on there. And you didn't really have any works in progress to fiddle with while those two are out. So you were already itching.
Yeah.
That little cat was in your head doing this. Yeah. And so this is why we can say we might get bored with writing and just go off and do other things, but it will never happen because it's actually part of who we are.
Yeah. So think of the cat in the cardboard box, always scratching. This one is just about there. And if I go back and I look at those notes today, and it's going to be like, ooh, I have a great opening line, and I do actually have a great opening line.
And we're off.
Yeah. Slavery is man's ultimate final sin. So it's something like that. Not exactly like that, but it's close.
Or just slavery's man's final sin.
Or slavery
Which actually plays into another project that you're thinking of working on.
Slavery is man's ultimate sin.
Right.
Ultimate sin.
And that's another point, though, because you do have another project potentially in the works that you haven't decided for next year. The one that we did the trip for.
Oh, yeah, the way you actually did the travel for.
Which was related to slavery.
Yeah.
So obviously your mind is in that direction right now. And that's the other thing is you can kind of go off on a tangent, be working on a certain book that has a certain theme. but your mind is kind of constantly working on variants to that theme, and that's where, the writer's mind can be a very fertile place. You might plant one crop, but things are going to float in from the atmosphere and get mixed in, and every once in a while, you can have a beautiful flower garden and find some kind of weird random thing just growing in there, usually a weed, but sometimes it's going to be a beautiful flower. So, that's, and I guess, what was that, bit of a simile, the writer's mind in a field of flowers, but that's kind of where we are right now. We're a little bit all over the place.
Yeah, message to cousin Dave. The brain is screwed up. Fix it. Okay. So anyway, you just saw the struggle that that writers go through. The struggle that writers go through. And that's what I'm struggling with right now at the moment is do I want to do this book, which I oh boy.
But there's always the opportunity to write a first draft if you have a few minutes, because obviously you will be doing some editing here very soon.
Yeah.
But once that's edited and we've created a cover or you've found a cover, that will be ready to go.
Yeah, we need to do a podcast on discipline, obviously.
Right.
Yeah,
yes, we are all over the place. We are not disciplined writers.
Yeah,
but
we got to get shit out. Okay. So let's talk about
what we actually came to talk about.
Let's talk about what we actually came to talk about. Although this is a fascinating subject.
We could just dedicate the whole podcast to that and throw out the other topic.
No, let's do the other topic, because the other topic is kind of important to writers, because I think it's actually it's a humongous challenge. I think it is
very much.
It's a humongous challenge, and it's always that complicated thing of human relationships. But romance writers make their money off new relationships.
Yes.
The stumble bumble of
the meet cute,
falling into a new relationship, two people, or nowadays maybe more than two people. But to be fair, but we'll stick it to the traditional model right now, that we're two people from either differing or same backgrounds stumbling into each other, either by happenstance or because one is actually enamored with another person, a third party. And romance writers, they make a lot of money, and there's so many books, thousands upon thousands and thousands of stories and books about two people stumbling into each other.
Yes.
Maybe not so much the tragedy of Romeo and Juliet, but perhaps more so the comedy of the Taming of the Shrew, where or for modern folks, 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, I love that movie.
They're basically the same thing, where you
Yes.
have you have two parties who are not interested in each other. One's forced to become interested in another, and then they start to find that they have a lot in common.
Yes.
And those are the core of romance. But let's go to the other end, and the reason we talk about the other end is because of you and me and the number 42.
Life, the universe, and everything.
Number 42. Now,
yes.
you and I just celebrated our 40.
Also, that's just a reference to The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, Douglas Adams, if you're not aware.
And so you and I just celebrated our 42nd anniversary. Congratulations.
Congratulations to you.
41 great years.
Well, that is something to discuss, though, because you joke about the first year.
Yeah, first year.
The first year was rough.
We
were very young.
Very young.
Very young.
Stupid.
We were both very self-centered, I think. Yeah. And, a lot of people said we wouldn't last a year. Yeah. And there were people, I think, that met in the same situation we did that also got married. Another couple that we know got married before us, and they are still married.
They're still married.
But I believe there are other relationships that did break up.
Yeah.
So it's
hard.
It's hit or miss. It's very hard. But I think our advantage, and I think we've discussed this before, is that we actually moved away from our families. Right. So we didn't have that external pressure from our families. We kind of had to stumble and figure it out for our own, ourselves.
And we also we didn't have any place to go to.
Right. We had to rely on each other.
So if things failed, we didn't have a place to hide. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to talk so much about the beginning, but I want to talk about the current state of affairs. And I think this may be a harder book to write for relationships for Bite, when you talk about one that where every long-term relationship is a culture, And what I mean by culture is that it has its own language, it has its own habits, it has its own laws, it has its own rules, it has its own physical setting that is unique to the rest of the world, but it has its own emotional setting which dictates the physical setting. It is its own culture.
It's a microcosm.
It's a microcosm of civilization. And so I think that's what makes it very difficult to write about, because for writers to write about new situations or new couples, everything is out there. Everything is just visible. Feelings are visible. Passions are visible. The sex is visible. Everything is out there.
True.
Everything is out there to be seen as they come together.
Well, who doesn't love seeing a new young couple together out in public?
Right.
Because there is a lot of PDA, public displays of affection. You know, he or she, depending, may still be opening doors for each other. You know, they're being very careful about the other person's feelings and trying to do everything they can to make the other person happy. But over time, you know, you become familiar and you get set in your ways, and maybe some of that, it might happen occasionally. But the passion, the passion, excitement, those public displays of affection. We famously, quite some years ago now, saw an older couple walking along a path that we like to walk along.
And I'm going to try and dig out that picture. I think I know where it is and put it as the header.
But they were an older couple, and I believe they were hand in hand just walking along this path, and it was just so sweet.
Yeah.
It's very touching. You could tell they had been together for a long time. And you do see these older couples. Sometimes actually it's an older couple that is in a new relationship for one reason or another, but you can tell the couples that have been together for a long time.
Yeah.
There is a level of comfort there. And it's like wearing that old sweater that, you know, it's pretty ratty now, but it's still very comfortable, and you're not going to get rid of it.
And you know, they've been through the battles together. They've been through the wars together, whether or not there were children involved, careers,
money,
moving, you know, economic problems, money problems. You know, it seems every couple has to deal with money problems.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, there's the impending reality of, you know, one of them is maybe unhealthy.
Yes.
You know, we see this when we go to the doctor's office all the time, where we see a couple where we see one is less healthy than the other. And I've seen this a couple times recently where, you know, sadly, where you can see where one partner, you can see it in their eyes. You can see, you know, the impending panic or the impending fear when their partner is not healthy, 100% healthy. And you can see that, you know, they know.
Yes.
They know that their culture, that their world is about to dramatically change. Now, it may not be, you know, soon, or it may not be later, but they know the time is coming. And all of this, and to take this, you know, circle this back to the writing, which is why we're here. The writing, I think that this world, this existence is much more difficult to write about.
Yes.
Because couples do have their own language, they do have their own memories, and they can express in a look what takes young people, you know, days to get out. And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. What I mean to say is that young people have to learn to speak the language of their culture, and they haven't gotten there yet. So they will talk things over and over and over and over again. Whereas, let me just very quickly, and I know where you're going, but let me just very quickly finish my train of thought here. Whereas an older couple, they'll just look at each other, and the other will just go, "Okay, we'll have that for dinner." You know, that kind of thing. You know, they don't have to talk about what's for dinner every single night. It's just one will have to look at the other and say, "Okay, yeah, I'll order something." And it's that quick. You know, it's that shorthand, that language. But you were going to make a contrary point.
Yes, that instead of discussing it, they don't discuss it.
Yeah.
And that's where the tensions come in. That's where the conflict comes in. There is inevitably a miscommunication of some kind. You know, somebody was out with a coworker and they were actually discussing a work project, but then their new boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, their new partner is jealous, because there are also work relationships. There's that joke about work husbands and work wives, and there's another microculture.
And you know, and it's not a joke because, and you know, we're an example of this is is that insecurity from colleagues, co-workers can enter into a relationship
Very much.
because we met at work.
Yes.
We met at work, and
Oh,
so and our relationship grew from that. And so, as you said, and so there's the relationships that you grow at work, and you become close because at work you have the stress to get things done. You have the energy that have to expend, and it can't be done it's not done in a vacuum.
No.
It's done in a vacuum. So yeah, you become close and you start having to take phone calls and emails. And so it's easy for partners to misunderstand.
Yes, very much.
And sometimes, sadly, it's not misunderstanding.
No.
It's actually happening.
Yes. And I think we both had that situation where we worked with people who were being a little inappropriate. And I don't think either one of us was encouraging it.
But
it happens. And, you know, you either nip it in the bud or decide that, oh, I want to go explore this new thing. So this is where relationships start to break down.
But for long-lived relationships, those that, you know, survive those kind of, you know, hurdles, they become part of the language. And it's like, for example, it's like I was telling you when we voted on Friday.
Yes.
That one of the volunteers there touched my arm. And it's like, you know, and it's like back in the day, you would have been all. Whereas today, you trust me and you have faith and you know that nothing is going.
To be fair,
yes.
We are already senior citizens. I believe the person who touched your arm was a little bit more senior than us.
Yes.
And I know your preferences, perhaps. You know, I don't know how much
being
me, of course.
Always you.
I don't think you have a predilection for the older woman, the so-called cougar. And, I took it more as, she was being motherly, you know, type of situation, whereas it wasn't anything flirtatious.
It wasn't.
I could,
yeah.
If it would make you feel better, I could get all upset about it.
But it's those things that have happened in the past to every couple. It's,
yes.
The waitress dropping a honey.
Oh.
The waitress dropping a honey or a deer. Whereas, it's not just that though.
Right.
And
there's the look up and down,
the look, and things like this.
The wink.
Where every couple has to deal with that, and couples either develop a language or they develop ways to how do you want to say this?
They navigate the challenges.
They navigate
It's
challenge.
like whitewater. You have to look out for the rocks.
Right.
It's exciting, but you got to watch it.
And every relationship's going to have one. And then so let's try and take this back into the writing. Trying to write something like this, where we have that insight into that culture, and I keep using that word because I think it's extremely valid because it is a unique microcosm of humanity that nobody else in the world shares.
Right.
It may be similar, but nobody else in the world shares. So trying to write about an older couple that have navigated those worlds, or those, as you said, navigated the rocky, whitewater. They all handle it in their own different ways. Some couples welcome it, some couples go to the other extreme.
Right.
And to write about those relationships, I think, is very difficult. And I'm not really sure how to do it and give it justice, because it is so much easier to write about the other end, which I've done. We're talking about the knowing, the new part. The new part of a relationship, but the old part of the relationship, I think, is much more difficult.
Well, and I think there are instances where there have been at least a couple of movies that I can think of where they do talk about a couple who've been in a relationship for a long time and it's very dysfunctional. One of the movies that we saw when we were dating, Body Heat, was the wife comes onto a man because she's trying to get rid of her husband.
Yeah, extreme ways.
Yes, so you're taking it to an extreme level, basically. It's like, it's not so much about the relationship and the part that we're talking about now. They're trying to bring more drama into it. But there actually is a level of day-to-day drama that a lot of people don't see. And I think the challenge that you're mentioning is that you can bring this drama in, but you're starting the story in media res. You're definitely in the middle of some action, this long-term relationship.
Well, we can use the Swiss Army Knife movie that we always
Okay.
use whenever we get lost like this.
Right.
And of course, it's Love Actually, where
True.
where Emma Thompson,
The
Emma Thompson and
Alan Rickman.
that relationship,
Right.
where that's obviously they have kids together. It's been
a very comfortable relationship.
It's a comfortable relationship, but he poorly navigates
Very
the
much
white
so.
waters,
But then again, you're throwing in that dramatic element. But I think what we're talking about is writing the relationship maybe without the external drama, just the internal day-to-day workings, and you have all the backstory of the couple. But when you start writing this story, you're writing at a particular point in the couple's life where maybe the outside world looks at this story and says, oh, that's not going to be for me. There's nothing exciting there.
Right.
It's not new. It's not fresh. It's not, like you said, the passion, navigating all those challenges. But it is there.
It is there, but
finding that is the challenge of writing it.
And exactly, because we as to use another example, we as kids, when we look at our parents, they're just sort of there.
Yep.
And we don't see what keeps them together. We don't see what pulls them together. All we see are these two, old people in their 30s. These two old people, just sort of there.
Right.
Basically getting in our way whenever we want to do something, but we don't see, what keeps them together, what pulls them together, and what they have to do to stay together.
Well, but on the other hand, and this is where if you have maybe an older couple that still have small kids at home, this could be a great way to add some drama.
Right.
Is that the kids know how to play the parents off each other.
Yeah.
They know that one little thing that, if mom says this to dad, dad's going to lose it.
And it doesn't have to actually be young kids. It can
be adult kids,
too. It can be adult kids, too. Easily it could be adult kids. But for older couples, and I'm saying for 50s and 60s, I wonder, I'm sure there is a market for this kind of writing, for this kind of drama. But I don't think it's paid nearly as attention to because people read to escape.
Yes.
And I don't think there's a humongous market for it because the people that would buy it are basically trying to escape from that kind of relationship or that kind of reality that they have to live with.
Yes, and there was I discussed this with you yesterday, but I had seen a story on TikTok where I've fallen into the loop where it's basically customer service stories and how people interact with the customers or how the customers interact with the people who are just trying to do their job. But this one was specifically in a bookstore. The woman comes in, she wants a spicy romance, and she's talking about, I read 7 romances in a week, but I've got to keep myself down to that. And then the bookseller says, wow, 7 books a week is a lot. How do you manage? And she says, because my husband is gone. He wouldn't allow me to do this. He did not incite in me this kind of spicy passion that I'm getting out of these books. So now I'm just devouring them. And that's the kind of relationship. It's like, well, if you didn't have that passion, why did you stay together? Because from the way the story was told, it sounded like the woman was happy that her husband had passed away. And, you mentioned earlier seeing those partners with the panic in their eyes because they know what's coming, don't know when, which is part of the panic. It could be at any time. But, to actually see someone declaring that they're happy, their partner has passed on for this particular reason. Why did they remain in that relationship? And that's, maybe it was, they were comfortable. They didn't think about it. It was just, it was there. And then once he was gone, she realized, oh, this is what I was missing.
And, and it may be simpler than that. Maybe they meshed for 90%, 90%.
Right, true.
Or they became so comfortable in their culture, as people do, the devil you know.
Yes.
The devil you know is better than the one you don't know. That it's it's
complex.
It's complex, and it's probably
Uh-oh. Did we get another story idea?
No. Oh, God. Oh, my brain is
You're seeing JT's mind in action.
Okay. Okay, so what do y'all think? What do you think about, especially our listeners, watchers that have been in a long-term relationship? Did we catch the points that we need to catch in order to start your book? Now, because I'm not going to write this book. So, is this something that you feel challenged enough to write about? Did we hit the points that you need to consider? Or what did we miss? Because we know we probably missed something.
Oh, yes.
Because for example, the two things that'll break up a relationship faster than anything are children and money.
Right.
Did we hit those points enough? Because we did talk about them. But is there something else? Is it that third, errant party that comes in, sort of like an asteroid, or a comet running through a solar system and pulls things out of orbit?
Love Actually again.
Again. So let us know what your thoughts are on this, because it's an interesting, complex subject, and it might be just an interesting book sometime to write just for the challenge of it, because it's easy to write about Romeo and Juliet. It's easy to write a Romeo and Juliet or a Taming of the Shrew, relatively easy, but to write about it, at the other end of the scale, that would be a fascinating, challenging book to write.
And I'm thinking about genres in specific, and we've talked a lot about romances and how it's mostly about the excitement of the new relationship, the excitement of second chance at love, that type of thing. But would this type of a book be more of maybe a literary fiction versus, it probably would not fit into the romance market, unless there is a subgenre that I'm not aware of. If there is, please, I'd be interested in hearing about it, because maybe that would be something fun to read. I do enjoy reading a romance. I do enjoy the, remembering the feelings of fresh new love and the excitement, and you never know what the next day is going to bring. Whereas in our point in the relationship, it's basically who's going to feel okay tomorrow and who's going to be sick, and but it's it's not, there are always going to be those things that pop up that you aren't expecting. But is there a subgenre of older, comfortable romance, like a cozy senior romance, rediscovering your love for each other, something like that? Be interesting to know if that's a category, a subcategory. Oh no, here we go again.
Okay. So let us know what your thoughts are, and
yes.
if you have some other examples, we would like to do that too. We'd like to hear about that. Okay. Anything else we want to chat about? Because I thought this was a fascinating discussion that we could keep going for a while, because obviously it relates quite a bit to us.
Yes.
But we're
and that, maybe that is something we do want to throw into our bat book, is a little bit more about our relationship and travel and things like that, because it is fascinating. It may be fascinating to other people, because we do like to eavesdrop on other people's conversations and lives. So
anyway, happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary.
Happy anniversary. Just
42.
Remember where we were 42 years ago, feeling rather sick and gross. Oh my God.
No, actually, I think at this point we may have been on the road to Nebraska.
Yeah, I think so.
Probably
pretty close.
That may come up in our bat book. So, stay tuned.
Stay tuned. Okay. Thank you for watching, listening along. As always, commercial time. If you want to read more about us, if you want to hear more about us, if you want to watch more about us, you would start at our website at www.carsonhume.com. carsonhume.com, where we have all sorts of fascinating stuff and links to our books. So please buy our books. Please buy our books. But but we are mostly interested in feedback from folks. We want to hear what we're doing right, and more importantly, we want to hear what we're doing wrong.
And if there's anything in particular that stood out to you from this podcast, because as you said, it is a fascinating subject, maybe we could dive into the nuances of it in future podcasts. So just let us know by leaving a comment on carsonhume.com.
Yep.
And follow our social media. We're going to be getting that up and running. I know we said that last week,
but
we really are. Things came up last week. This week should be better.
Yeah, this week should be better. Okay. Anyway, thank you for following along. Until next time, and what our next podcast is, we never know. We'll know when we get there. Over there is Cece.
And over there is JT.
And thank you very much, and you all take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.